Hello everyone, welcome to tonight's live stream. I am just getting started here, so give me 1 second. Let a few people jump on here. Let's see, I have a few things coming in the chat. Glad you guys are here. Let me just get a few things pulled up here and we will kick it off. All right, Steve, hello. Hello, Artur. Hello, JJ. So a couple of you guys are out next week, not a problem. Just keep on keeping on. Don't leave me hanging. Keep coming back at when you can, and we all got things to do sometimes. I'm sure there's going to be a stream one night that I won't make it to. Maybe I'll have one of you guys lead it. But Steve says, I've been trying to create a form helper function for select form option all day with no good result. Well, the good news is we already created one of those, so you don't really need to create one. All right. So I got a long list of stuff to get to today, and I want to talk to you guys about, first of all, can you guys hear me all right? Audio good? Can you guys see everything? Hopefully we don't have as big of a lag as we did last week, but I actually wrote down a bunch of notes here because I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the things that I've been working on up to this point and how that affects the live stream and this project. And so first off, no worries, the live stream is going to continue. We're not restarting again, we're going to keep on, but I realized that in my live streams from earlier, if people start the project and they're watching this not live, but I still have people who are watching the first live stream, and I show to go to my Bitbucket account and get that framework, and then we work with the code, but a lot of code has changed in the framework since then. So there's going to be problems with that working. So what I'm going to do is go back and shoot an intro video to stick on the beginning of the first 3 or 4 videos to tell people don't follow my instructions as far as getting the framework. And instead what I've done is I have tagged commits in Bitbucket for live. So I'm going to switch over my screen and show you guys that real quick. So let me just jump over and we'll jump into the Bitbucket here. So let's see, let me get back to my other stuff. And if you look in the live e-commerce YouTube course and you go to downloads, from now on this is what you guys will do. If you have to back up, don't unless I specifically tell you and you're doing this live, but if you're watching this video and it's in the future and it's not live, hello, man, I will struggle with that name. Chibuku, sorry if I mispronounced that. Like I said, I can barely pronounce my own name, so please don't be offended. But anyways, what you'll do is if you go to the downloads section and look at tags, I've actually tagged the commits. So you can look at where we were at the end of each one of these episodes, and that code will be exactly how it was when we left off. Okay? So if you're here in the future, check out these. Don't follow my instructions on getting the framework. The reason being is because I have been working very hard on the framework. I've added a lot of new features, I've done bug fixes, and we're going to get to some of that today just in the beginning here. And I'll show you all the changes and how that affects. I've already updated our live project, so go ahead and pull episode 5. So if you look, also you can go to branches, and I'll start keeping these as a branch as well. So you can pull episode 5 branch, and so that is how we're going to do it. All right, and then the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is make sure you guys are testing stuff for me and reporting bugs. So let me show you that. If you go to my Bitbucket and you look at Rua MVC, this is the actual framework, and you guys can see I pushed 10 hours ago on that. But here, this will on master will always be the new stuff that I'm adding as I go. And so if you guys want to see the cutting edge framework as it is, as I'm adding to it and fixing bugs and doing that kind of stuff, that's you come here. Now if you find issues, go down to the issues tab and go ahead, or if you want feature request, so you can go here and create an issue, and you guys can tell me if it's a bug or an enhancement or a proposal or a task, and go ahead and give me a good description, maybe some screenshots and things like that, and give it a title, create it, and I'll keep an eye on these, so let me know about that. All right, so that is just a little bit of housekeeping on keeping up with this live series, because as the framework evolves, time goes by, things aren't going to be the same when people watch this in the future and when you go back and watch previous videos. All right. All right, so the other thing is, I did notice, and I think all of you are, but this is for the future people. I've still been looking at my analytics on my YouTube channel, and I noticed that 75 to 80% of my views are still coming from people who are not subscribed to me. So if you guys want to help me out, please subscribe, like, comment, share these videos with other people who need this. I'm sure all of you guys may know some other developers or people that could help, that you could help by sharing this information. And also, and I don't want to plug myself too much, but yeah, just make sure you guys are subscribed. If you want, you can send me a super chat on the lives. That's awesome. But other than that, that's what you guys could do to help. Also, Arturo is helping by working on the front end site. I'm going to show you guys in a little bit. I've actually been working on documentation as well for the framework. I spent quite a bit of time this week on that. So I wanted to show you guys a preview of what's going on with the documents. However, for some reason, every time I'm trying to build anything with Ruby right now, the bundler and stuff like that is failing to fetch my gems and everything from Ruby gems. So I think there just may be a network issue right now with them on their end. I built this on my Mac machine, but I guess I'm not going to be able to show you guys the documentation that I wanted to show you that I've been building so far. So far what I have is a getting started tutorial, and then I'm going to break it out and show basically every part of the application or of the framework and how to use each part. So how to use the models correctly, the controllers. I'll have in-depth explanations of every single method and when to use them, and I'll show code examples. And so what I'm using for that is a library called Slate. If you just search for Slate on GitHub, I think it's called Lord Slate. But yeah, it's really cool. It's like some documentation type software. And if you guys have seen Stripe's API or even PayPal's API, it's real similar to that, where it has a middle column that has text and screenshots, and then it has on the right column, it has code examples that you can look through as you're going through the documentation. And on the left side, it's got the different headings, so you can quickly get to what you're wanting to find. And you can also search it as well. I really wanted to show you because I'm really excited about it. I don't know how you get excited about documentation, but I think that's something that's really lacking. People don't even know everything that exists. So Steve's been trying to create his own function that I've already created, which is cool. That's totally cool if you guys want to build your own stuff. Hey, that's what we're all here for. You can customize stuff to your heart's content. But I do want you to know that I am adding to the framework, and I would love to take suggestions on stuff that you would like to see in the framework. Keep in mind that there is a separation between a framework and also there's the framework and your personal applications. So there's going to be stuff that you're going to want to build on your own, but that should be living in the app. Okay, so the core files you shouldn't really be touching, and then the app you can extend the core files and do things with it there. And that's the beauty of object-oriented programming, is you don't actually have to touch that. And what's cool about that is if you do it that way, when I update the framework, if you want to update, you basically just merge in my changes into your projects. I did make some breaking changes lately, and I'm going to go over some of those, but I'm very happy with the direction of the framework. Very happy with what it's going to give you guys the ability to do, and so that you could build things very, very quickly. All right, I've got someone new that I don't recognize. Yeah, Kaparap, Kaparap. I'm not sure how to say your name either, but you are from Kenya. Welcome. Hello. It's an honor and a blessing that so many of you. It's an honor and a blessing that so many of you guys come to the live stream and check this out. And I hope that this is a blessing in your lives as well. All right. So I had another. What about language? So language, the ability to do language files. I'll look into that. Are you talking about different languages within the framework, or specifically so that you can build language files out so that your plate or your, I'm sorry, not plate, your views can pull in languages and stuff like that? We can look at that too. All right, so let me just quickly and briefly go through some of the changes I've made since the last live stream. So just this week, seems like forever ago now, but I've made a lot of changes and I want to show you those. And so let's see. The first thing that I changed is I went ahead and updated to Bootstrap 4 that is packed with initially. So instead of having Bootstrap 3 and jQuery 2 point something, it's now up to date with jQuery, and it is up to date with Bootstrap. So there's some changes with it. I'm happy with the updates with Bootstrap because they moved to Flexbox on their grid system, which I think is awesome. Flexbox is about 98, I believe 98% supported on all devices now, so it is ready to go for public use. So they've moved over to Flexbox, which I think is cool. So I went ahead and updated the framework to use Bootstrap. Now, with that in mind, guys, this is a framework, and if you don't want to use Bootstrap, it's so easy. You just go to your layouts, you get rid of all that crap, and you add your own stuff right in the layout. You load it in just like any other thing. So don't be too bent out of shape if you don't like Bootstrap. I'm just shipping it with Bootstrap and jQuery just because I think it helps prototyping and quickly putting apps together. All right, and a lot of people are familiar with it. So it just saves you guys that little bit of time as well. The other thing is I've added session messages to where you can, for example, set a session message, which what that does is it will alert the user in some way when on their next page load. And that's useful when we're using this MVC framework and we're using pretty URLs and stuff like that, because what we do oftentimes is we will build a controller action, say a delete action, that won't really have a view. We will just fire off something to that, and then it does the action and it redirects them to another action. So for example, say in our current e-commerce site we're building, we're going to have a products table, and so if we have a delete button, that will actually redirect them to the delete action, delete it, and then redirect them back to the table they were on. It'll happen so fast they won't see it happen, but that's what's actually happening. And we need a way to set a message so we could say, hey, the contact has been deleted, or whatever sort of alert we want to put at the top. And so I added, there were 4 different styles, and I added 8 now because Bootstrap 4 has 8 alerts, and I just used those alerts, but I made the I built it into where there's helper functions that you can just use them. Okay. The other thing that I did was I wanted the ability. A lot of people have been asking me about Ajax. They're like, how do you use this framework with Ajax? And I didn't really think that was a hard thing to do, so I didn't think I needed to include it with the framework. But so many people have asked for it that I have indeed updated the thing. But more, I'm going to get back to the Ajax in a minute. Actually, I don't want to get off course here, so please bear with me. So, but because of the Ajax, and this is where I was going, because of the Ajax, we needed also to be able to do alerts through JavaScript. So I added a new JavaScript alert. It's just called alert message, and I'll show you an example of that. And you pass in the same types as you do for your session messages, and what it does is it'll rise up from the bottom of the screen on the bottom of the screen, and there's 8 different options on what the color schemes and things like that are. It just follows the same styles as the Bootstrap alerts, and then it raises up. By default, it stays for 5 seconds and goes back down, but you can totally customize that. I've made it to where you can pass in the message, you pass in what style you want, and you pass in the duration. The duration and style are optional. If you don't pass those in, it's just going to be an info alert with a duration of 5,000 milliseconds, which is 5 seconds. Okay, so we talked about alerts. One of the biggest things that I changed this last week, and I'm really excited about this, because another thing that bothered me a lot about the framework is the dependency of our models to have to be instantiated in order to run certain methods. So what we would do is we would say we wanted to run a find first or a find method to find a bunch of our rows in our database. Well, we had to instantiate the model first and then run it on the instantiated model. And in that instance, that would work better as a static method, because we don't really care about the model object being instantiated. We want the model object to be instantiated on the individual rows, but not when we're calling the find methods and things like that. So what I've done is I've taken a lot of the methods that we had, for instance, the find and find first are good examples, and I've turned those into static methods. I've also changed the way that models are constructed, and I'll show you how easy it is now to use a model. And actually, let's just go ahead and look. Last week when we were here, we were actually working on our products model and our product images model. So let me just open that up real quick. You'll notice there's no more constructor here that's constructing the parent. You don't need to do that, because the parent has the constructor and it will inherit that here. But the reason we were doing that before is because I was setting the table of the model and things like that inside the constructor. So instead, what I've done is added static properties, and you just add static table, and it's a protected static table and a protected static soft delete. If you want soft delete, you just set that to true, and then you set the table, and you need your columns still. That's just for speed, so we don't have to look that up every time. And that's it. I mean, that's how you don't, all this stuff right here you don't need. All you need to create a model now is to declare the model class, extend the model, add the columns that are in the table, and then declare the table like this, a protected static table. And that's it. Your model will then work. You can insert, update, do most of your basic CRUD operations with that table right through that model without doing any additional work. So you don't have to remember any of those constructors or anything that we were doing before. Now that does leave us with one problem that I've already solved, and that is since we're not declaring we're not running a constructor explicitly inside each model. There was no way for you to run code inside the constructor. So just like we did before with the controllers, now the model has its own onConstruct hook. So if you need to do something on the construction of this, you would then use a hook, and it looks like this. So if I wanted to do that, first of all, let me make sure you guys, okay, just making sure I have my screen on. So you just do public, oh wow, public function, and then you just run onConstruct. Like that, and you got, man, I can't type today. And then inside of here, you do any logic you would normally have done inside the constructor. So what happens behind the scenes is that the parent's constructed, and then as soon as the parent is constructed, it looks for this method. If it exists inside your model, it runs all the code in here afterwards. So this is a hook that when you construct a model object, you can now have a hook. All right, so that is probably the biggest change that I made to the models, and I can show you. Let's look through real quick. So now, and I know I don't want to use too much of your guys' time with this. We're gonna get on with the MVC e-commerce, but I just wanted to show you why code has changed since the last time we talked. All right, so the other thing that I've done now is there are new methods. So there are a few new methods, and then the find method is now static, which it wasn't before. So is the find first, and so is find by ID. Save is still a method that you have to run on a constructed object, which makes sense. So I left the ones that made sense for it to be constructed, and then I added static methods for everything else. So that's that. That's pretty much all the changes for the model. So that's the biggest breaking change that I had made since the last time we were on, is basically refactoring how models work. Not too much, but just cleaning it up so it's easier for you guys to create models going forward. So now it's the same with, remember, it's the same with our controllers. You no longer have to do the constructor. It just, the parent, it inherits it from the parent, and it has an on construct if you need that ability. Okay. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the JSON response. So getting back to the everybody wanting to do Ajax request. Well, Ajax is not a problem to do, but we needed a way to respond to those requests within our framework. If we're going to use this framework to build an API, and also just if we want to make Ajax calls to controller actions without printing a view to the screen and having proper headers and stuff like that. So what I've done is I've added in the core controller class, I now have added a JSON response. And so what this does is basically, this is a method that you guys can use inside of the controller. And let me show you what that looks like. So if I'm in the controller, and let's just say, well, that's not the controller, I'm in a model there. Let me get to a controller. So let's say I no longer want this index action to be my home page. I just want this to be used for an Ajax request, right? So instead of running this view render, all we do is say this JSON response, like that, and then you pass in the data in the form of an associative array or just an array. And so it would be something like this, you know, success, true, and then all your other values, you know, data, and then you could do, you know, a multi-dimensional array or whatever. And what it does is it will actually set the headers to be the type of application JSON. It'll give a response code, and then it will encode your array that you pass into the JSON response and echo that out, and then it kills the app right then. So there's no funny business going on. But yeah, so that is how you do JSON response now. So now you use your normal methods, and I don't care if you're using fetch or you're using jQuery or just vanilla JavaScript or whatever to do your Ajax calls, Axios or any of those that you guys use. You just make a call to one of your controller actions, do all the logic, and return this JSON response. Okay, so you use that inside of any of your controllers, and now that is a you now have the ability to do that. All right. So JJ said you should add a method find by to search for any field. We could do that. I think that's a little slow. And also, most of the time, you usually want to add more logic into it. You could do, you know, even if you're doing order and stuff like that. So our normal find stuff, we have a find by ID, but I mean, again, you guys can modify this to your heart content. I really normally add all that kind of stuff in my own models and not in the base core model class. And the reason I do that is because I want my stuff to be highly visible to me. And it's going to be unique to that specific set of data anyway, so it really belongs in that model. I understand what you're saying though, because some frameworks allow you just to pass find by and then the name of a column, and then you pass in like, you know, the value that you're searching by. I'll consider that. I just I frameworks that I use that even allow that, I find myself not even using that personally, but there's probably use for it, so I'll look into that a little bit. The next thing, and we're almost done, I promise, is we had this thing where our application allows us to have very tight access control and build out our ACL JSON files. And so, but we didn't have a way to add new ACLs other than manually. So inside the users model, I added 2 new methods there called add ACL and remove ACL. And these are static methods that basically you just pass in the user ID that you want to add the ACL to or remove it from. And then you pass the ACL name, and that will match exactly. So like right here, if we wanted to add super admin, we would pass super admin into this as the ACL string. And so now you can add and remove ACLs individually. I might add support later for adding multiple ACLs, although I'm not really sure when you would do that. There's probably a use case for it though. All right, with that being said, guys, I know it looks like I dropped a few of you. Sorry about that if I got too boring or whatever. I did want to go over that stuff. But we are pretty much caught up with all the housekeeping stuff, and we're going to continue on building our MVC e-commerce site. And let's see, let me make sure everything's up and running. All right, so when we left off last week, we had this error at the top of the screen when we're trying to upload our images, and that is because on XAMPP, on our local machines anyway, this most likely won't happen to you on a live server. But the way it works with XAMPP, which is what we're using or what I'm using, what happens is it gets installed as your admin or root user, and then you are not your admin or root user. And so you don't have permissions, and Apache doesn't have permission to make changes like create directories or upload images to those directories. And so the correct way to fix this is to basically you would create a new user group on your computer and a new username, and then you would go into the Apache config file, and you would change the user and the group to those that you just made, and you would add yourself to that group, or you could use your own user and group or whatever, but you would add yourself to that group, and then you would have to restart your Apache server, and then from then on it is acting as though it is you. As far as the permissions that you have, it has. I normally fix it that way. I tried to do that on my Mac last night just to double check before we did the live stream, and it all worked as far as uploading, but then I had a problem with MySQL. I don't know if Apache Friends or XAMPP or something changed the way that they do the configuration with MySQL, but I ended up spending a lot of time trying to fix that last night. And so tonight I'm not going to waste our time on server configuration because we are not in a DevOps course right now. We are in a course to learn how to program. So normally, you know, your DevOps guys or your server guys will handle a lot of the server issues that you have, and then you handle the programming side if you're a developer. Now I know a lot of us are freelancers or whatever, and whatever like that, so you would need, you know, we would have to do a lot of the stuff on our own. But my point is like on a shared hosting or on a DigitalOcean or something like that, that you are actually sending your code to, all that stuff's going to be set up correctly anyway. It's just a local machine and a local dev problem. So because of that, the easiest solution to this problem is to simply change the permissions of the directory that we're going to upload to. Now, we're just going to set that to 777, which is read write to the world. And that's not a good practice to do at all on a server. You would never want to do that. But on our local machine, I'm not connecting this to where anyone can connect live. I don't suggest that you do anyway. it's going to be okay. I'm not going to have anybody. It's just I don't want to waste my time with server configuration again. So we're going to do it that way. And again, like we talked about last week, I really recommend that if you're going to be doing uploaded files, that it doesn't live on the same server anyway. So security upon security is an issue with this stuff. So at any rate, we're going to go ahead and change that permission. And then when we try to upload the next time, it should work. We still have a lot to do with our form and with adding additional logic and things like that to finish up the add new product feature. So we're going to continue on with that tonight, and we're going to just continue probably all the CRUD operations if we get time. We're going to go through, we will print out with the table to all of that. So, you know, we'll try to get to as many of the CRUD operations for adding new products tonight as we can, okay? It just really depends, because I do want to refactor our upload thing into its own class, as you guys mentioned last week. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So go ahead and let me jump over here and let me look at what's going on here. So if I just do ls-ld and I look at the uploads directory, you see the permission here. Let's see, let me try ls-la. So we had a products images in there as well. Yeah, my Linux machine is way different than Mac on this. So at any rate, let's just go ahead and change this. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to run sudo change mod, and then we'll try 755 like JJ's saying, to see if that's enough. The maximum upload size default is 2 megabytes. Is that in the configuration for examp is what you're saying, or is that what we set originally? You can give me more clarification on that, Artur. All right, so we'll just change mod 755 -r. I believe this is how you do this. And then I'm just going to do that inside of uploads, okay? So now if we look at that, should see not really sure that 755 is going to work. Let's try it though. It's not allowing us to create the directory. So I'm just going to go do 777 for now. I think that would take care of it. I just don't want to spend a bunch of time on this right now. Okay, so sudo all right. I think that should be good. We could check our PHP configuration to see what that maximum is set at. It could be different for a lot of different stuff. All right, so we got somewhere else. Got an undefined property, a description, and our model, and that is actually a leftover typo. So if you look at our table, we'll go to products. There is no description. Oh, there is a description. Okay, so I'm really dumb. So what I've done is I've named this description, and I believe that should be actually named, let me look at the form, but I do believe that that should be named body based upon what we called it last week. Let me take a look here in our views, and we did call that body. All right, so this is a super easy fix. I'm gonna leave it as body. That makes sense to me. You guys can leave it at description or whatever, but I am gonna just edit this row here in the database. Go to structure and change this to, wow, this row is really screwed up. So this is actually should be a text field too. I'm not sure. I must have been moving quick when we set that up. Oh, let's just drop that. We had both description and body. So this is a text. We already had that. And then to remove our error, what we're going to do is go ahead and jump in our model and remove updated name price. All right. So I think that's good. The reason we got that error is because, and you guys will see that error sometimes, even if you have the right columns in the database, if you don't define that column here as a public property, because and that'll only happen, by the way, if you're using the assign method. And because the assign method, what it does, or a find actually might do this too, but basically it reaches out to and finds all your columns in the database. That way it's not trying to dump in other information. It just only assigns the properties that are in your database. All right. So let's look now inside of our uploads directory. So it created a product underscore 13 file, and then it uploaded our image. And so we can see that has the random string here, and it probably failed. Let's see. Okay, so it did create the entry. So the product ID is 13. I do have a lot of data in the database from last week when we were trying to get this to work. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete all of those rows that we don't need. So right now we have one upload, and it's for product 13. So let's look at product 13. And again, we had a bunch of crap. And actually, I'll probably just delete all of this stuff because we're not going to need any of it. Just testing that upload. All right. Also, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. So now that we know that the uploads are working, at least up to the, let's see. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this entire directory. Also, it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys if you want to, dang it. All right, whatever. I'll fix that later. So it's up to you guys if you want to actually put these in Git. So one thing you could do, you probably want to, but it's going to be weird to commit these things. It's going to get kind of big. And again, that's why I also recommend not doing it on your own servers, because every time we try to jump, every time we try to push or pull or anything like that, it's going to have to convert these to transfer binary in those pulls and pushes and stuff like that. I mean, it's only going to do it from your local machine if it's new anyway. It's not going to make any changes. It's just your file size and stuff's going to get large. All right, so let's go ahead and just, while we're here, let's check that PHP info and see what that's set at. I'm going to jump in here, home controller, and I'm just going to echo PHP info, and then I'm just going to kill the page. So let's go. All right, so let's see. Max file uploads 20. Mine's set at 128 megs. I'm not sure why yours would be set at 2, Artur. Maybe it just determines, I don't know what XAMPP does when it sets this up. Mine is set at 128. So I'm not going to change that. I'll let you guys look at those changes on your own. So that's that. All right. So let's see. Right, JJ's correct, Steve. Those 3 numbers are basically just another way to represent permissions. And if you can search that easily online to get a list of all of that to make that make sense to you. But it basically has to do with your user and your groups and what permissions they have for creating and deleting directories, renaming, creating files, deleting files, and modifying files. It's just a way to, basically, it is a way. I have 7.3 on here. But anyways, yeah, thanks for putting up that link, guys. Yeah. So, anyways, if you do have an issue with file size being set too small, yeah, you have to go to the php.ini file and just update that, and then you'll need to restart your server in order for those changes to take effect. But I don't really think most of you are gonna have an issue with that. It's just if you guys try to upload something like, say it's 2.5 megabytes and it doesn't work, it may be something to look into. So just do your PHP info. There's another way you can do your PHP info as well if you're using XAMPP without putting it directly in your file. What you could do is just go to localhost, and in the dashboard they have the PHP info built right there. See, you're running 7. I don't know what version of 7.3 you're on, Artur. I'm on 7.3.0. So yeah, I don't know, man. It could also be resources on the computer when you install it. I have no clue what they're doing. All right. Yeah, read, write, execute. That's right. Execute. So basically, whether or not you allow an executable to be run by someone who's not at a certain, permission level. All right. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to get rid of our PHP info. I just wanted to double check, make sure we're going to have any issues with that on the stream. All right. So what's happening right now is if we go to our admin products controller, in our add action, we are looping through the post, and we're getting the images. Well, we're setting up image errors, and we're running the validate images method that is on our, right now it's just living inside of our product images model. It's probably not the best place for it. We probably want to build an uploads class that we can use in multiple places, and then allow us to change what some of those values are, and even add new file types and things like that. But I'm not going to spend a bunch of time making that class fully featured and fleshed out until we need to use it. I think I do want to, let me just jump over to my screen because I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that. We'll go on a little soapbox here for a second. So oftentimes what we tend to do as developers is we tend to over-engineer. And what I mean by that is we think ahead and we say, okay, in the future, I'm going to want to test for this file type, this file type, this file type, and I want to set all this stuff up. And then what we end up doing is we spend a lot of time getting hung up on that right now, and we're not even 100% sure that our application needs it. We haven't run into an issue that we need it, and so developing applications takes long enough already. We're already going to spend a ton of time building whatever application we're building. All right, so adding other features that we don't yet need, it could very well be a waste of time. And by the time we need to use those features, we might need it to be different anyway. So then we have to learn what we did originally how it's working, and then we might have to refactor that, and we might have to refactor a bunch of stuff. Okay, it's better to keep your stuff extendable, so there's a fine balance. You want to plan ahead enough to think, well, I may want to do this later, so how can I program this in a way now that it can easily be extended later when I need to add those features? But we don't want to add those features ahead of time. For one, I mean, if you're freelancing, you got to get stuff done. If you're working for someone, you got to get stuff done. And I struggle with this too every single day of my life. Is I always want to do more than is required because I want to write good code. But I think writing good code is writing minimal code so there's less chances for bugs, and but writing it in a way that you're not going to have to refactor everything every time you change something. Okay, so trying to think ahead enough to say, hey, I want this upload class that we can use later, but I want to do it in a way that makes sense. Okay, so as we do this, we're going to keep it as minimal as possible, and I don't want to go crazy adding stuff that we don't need right now for this upload. If I were doing an upload class to add to a framework, I have to think more about what everyone else is going to need from it. But in our particular situation, the framework doesn't have its own upload class. For one, I mean, you guys could be uploading this to different places and stuff like that anyway. So the upload class is likely something that you would have to add regardless. And if it did have a built-in thing, you would probably run into its limitations pretty quickly with your application, because you may want to do something that it just can't do. And so it's good to be able to build these things without it already existing. And so we're going to attempt to do that just right here live, which I'll say I don't write my best code live with you guys because, well, I had to think about what I'm saying, think about what I'm programming, type it all out, and there's just not enough real estate in my small brain to handle all of that busy work. And that's why I say a lot too live, is because there's just so much going on in my mind about the whole flow and camera and screen and all that. So we'll do our best live. I mean, that's what we do. And then, you know, we go back and we reread it later and we say, hey, that could be better, and we refactor it then. So, and if you guys see stuff that I do and you want it different, let me know, and I'll try to accommodate you. If you have good ideas, hey man, I'm not perfect. I don't pretend to be perfect, and we're all learning together. So let's just go and try to figure out what we want this upload class to be like without over engineering, so that we can move on with the application and do other stuff that we need to do, like add products, add a front end to the site. We need to add payment gateways. You know, we need the ability to accept credit cards. So we have a lot to do, and very little of it in this application anyway is going to be uploading, other than just images. So we'll focus on that for now. Hope that makes sense. So just a little tip, as a developer, you guys know how long it takes to do every little thing. It takes a lot longer than you think, so don't over engineer anything. Engineer it enough that it can be extended, but not so much that you're wasting time right now that could be spent on other things that are more valuable to that project. All right. So let's jump back over. So looking at this, we obviously don't want our product images model handling all of this stuff. Obviously some stuff like this, restructuring files, would be perfect inside of an upload class. This upload product images, however, we may use some of this here and some of it inside the class. The validation stuff, we'll put that in a class, but we'll probably move some of this to separate methods. Okay, so we just did a quick and dirty deal where we went through here and we just got the code working and validated and things like that. But really, there's something called single responsibility that you guys want to try to follow when you're programming, and that is you don't want a class to be doing too much. So you want each class to have a single thing that it's responsible for, a single I don't know how to explain it other than don't overload your class. It needs to be very tailored. That way, when you get into testing, and you guys let me know if you ever want to get into unit testing some of this stuff, but when you get into testing, you really want to be able to test each individual piece of code and know that it's predictable what goes in. If you put this in, this comes out. If you put this in, this comes out. And so in order to do that, you need single responsibility going on. And that also helps you track down bugs in the future and extend things, because it'll make sense where stuff is at. So don't try to just do everything and that the whole application needs to do in one spot. Really think about what makes sense for that class to handle. So let's go ahead and let's add ourselves, let's see what makes sense here. So validate images could very well be a validator, but I don't really want that to run through a model, because uploading itself doesn't really have anything to do with the database until you make it have something to do with the database. So it doesn't even make sense to stuff that in the models. It's not really a controller or a view. What it actually is it is actually probably some sort of lib or library directory. And so what I'm going to do is inside my app, I'm going to create a new, I clicked on file, but I'm going to create a new directory. And I'm going to call this directory lib. And this is where I'm going to put my library files, things that aren't part of the MVC structure, that needs to be used in maybe in all of those places. Probably not in a view, that doesn't really lend itself to it, but you would use things from the library in controllers and models. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So in lib, I could create directories inside of lib as well, and we might, but let's see. Let's create a new directory. And I'm gonna call this utilities. What? This I'm a creature of habit, man. So what I do at work is I use a different editor or IDE, and if you look at my drop down, new directory is on top in my IDE, but it's third here. So I keep clicking on save, search in directory instead of new folder. I just see the word directory and it's at top, so I'm used to that. So you guys have to deal with me a little bit just being dumb. So inside utilities, I'm going to create a new file, and let's call this uploads.php. And we need to go ahead and open up our PHP tags, and then we need to properly namespace this. So our JJ, I'm happy to see that you added PSR4 auto loading back in. But yeah, so to give this a namespace, it is actually lives in app, okay, and then it's lib utilities. I could have left that just in the lib folder until we need it. This is another example that I might be over engineering by adding an extra directory here when I didn't need it. But then a little bit of planning also helps me not have to go back and change a bunch of code. But anyways, so we'll go ahead and this is namespace. I don't know how I just skip parts of words when I'm talking. You're lucky I didn't start typing what we were saying. VS Code is nice. You guys keep telling me that. I'm not sold on VS Code yet. It doesn't seem much different from Atom, and I don't know, I don't like the way it looks so far. But I'm happy you guys like it. Everybody has to find editors that they are comfortable with. So create a class, and this thing is called uploads. And what we're going to do is just basically look at our product images and start pulling things out of here that we don't need inside of here. So the first thing that makes sense to me to pull out is probably this restructure files. And we probably don't have to do much to this at all. Just go ahead and pull it out completely like this. And we'll go ahead and stick this in here. give me a little space just so I can see clearly. So let's read through this real quick. We're going to pass in files. It's going to remain a static function. I don't see a reason for it not to be static. In fact, most of our things probably are going to be static methods in this class, because I don't really see a reason. There may be a reason. We'll talk about it. There may be a reason to instantiate a class at some point, but for now, what I can think of is probably going to be mostly static. So it takes a files and it restructures that. Okay, I don't think we need to change this at all. I think that's good to go. And obviously there's probably some refactoring that could make that nicer, but this is good. So then what we want to do is, let's see, we have our validate images. So I'll go ahead and get that out of here too. Now this can be busted up into a lot of different methods, and the reason we could do that is because validate images, if you think about the single responsibility thing we were talking about, we don't really need to be checking size here. That probably needs to live in a validate size thing, right? And so some of this code here, it really needs to be busted out of here. Okay, so this is where it comes into play, where we actually probably do need to instantiate this uploads thing, because we're going to want to keep track of these errors outside of this uploads thing. So let's go ahead and start moving some of this around and putting it in places that make sense. So I'm going to create just, you know what, let's do a private errors. That's going to be equal to an empty array. And then this, what we'll do is we'll basically have, we'll keep track of errors outside of these methods so that all these other methods can add errors as well. Okay, so let's see. What we want to do is max size. That could live inside of its own thing. So this and this. So we need a way to add errors easily to this. So let's go ahead and build ourselves a new method, and we'll call it public. And this one has to be just a public method. I mean, I guess it could be protected or private, but for now I'm going to make it public because I might want to add error messages outside of this. All right, so we do public function, and we'll just call it add error. Sure, we'll add error message. Sure. All right, and then what we want to do is we want to basically we want to check if, all right, let me just show you what I mean. So this thing needs to take in two things. It needs to take in the field or something. I don't know what we want to call that. It's not a field in this instance. It's actually the key of the, you know what, as far as uploads go, we probably want to do the name. So let's do name and then message. That's what we'll pass into it. And then all we have to do is we say if array key exist, and we're checking for name, and we're checking in we're checking the errors array. So if that exists, then what we want to do is probably just concatenate on that. So we'll say this errors name, and that's going to we'll just do this errors, and then what we're concatenate on is either some sort of break, is it possible to use dynamic text error messages and no static text? Well, it is, but we have to write a lot more logic for that. Obviously, we could, I don't know. I think if we do it inside here, what we could do is add an override thing to where it has default static messages that if you don't pass them in, it just passes something back. But you could actually add that. So I don't know. I don't want to get hung up on that right now. We could absolutely do that, but I think what I'm going to do is just add a space, and then I'm going to concatenate on the message. I think that leaves us a little bit of room. So then else, we're just going to say this errors name, and then we'll just pass in message. All right. So I don't really think this add error message needs to return anything because it's just setting these errors in the object. All right. Okay. Let's see. Oops. So now that we have add error message kind of pulled out, we have that extracted out of there. We can use that in our different types of validation. Now the validations that we did before were just checking type and size, and we loop through each files every time we do that. So we need to figure out if we want like a single method that will call the other methods, which is likely what we will do, or if we want to keep these separate and call them individually within our models and products. I think it's easier at this point until we need that sort of control. We'll just go ahead and create one simple validate thing, and then we'll have a way to return these errors. Okay. So let's go ahead now and look at you know what we could do? We could also set we can set our files here. We'll set that to an empty array, and then not sure I like this yet, but we'll see. So what we can do here is we can say public function construct, and then what we're going to pass in is the files array into this, and then what we'll do is we'll say this files is equal to we want to restructure it, so we'll go ahead and do self restructure files, and we'll pass that files in there. So what this looks like is we'll construct the uploads class or object, and we'll just pass in the files from the browser, and it will restructure those for us and set them here so that we can just have access to that anytime that we want to use that inside of all these different methods. Okay, so we have this validate images thing. I think what we need to do is say public function validate size, and on this we want I think what we'll do is we'll just take this max size and we're going to paste that in here as a parameter. And the reason we'll do that is because, dang it, I don't know how I keep screwing this stuff up. But basically, we're going to pass this in as a param, and it'll have a default setting like that so that we can control that if we want. Okay? In fact, this is another thing that could actually be set up in the constructor if we wanted. But anyway, we don't even need to, actually. If we wanted to control that outside of here, and again, this is probably just me, you know, my tendency to over-engineer. So let's just leave it like this for now. But what we could do is add max file size out here as its own property, and then we could actually, once we construct it, we could actually modify that then. Okay, I don't know if that makes any sense, but and we could, you know what, we are going to do that. That's just a smart way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say max allowed size, and we'll set that default. And you know what? The other thing that I'm going to do is we're going to make those public. Maybe. No, we're not. Sorry for changing my mind. But yeah, so then what we're going to do is let's just get that out of there. And then the last thing that we'll add up here is, I'll go ahead and put it on a new line. So we'll do private allowed image types. That way, later, if we decide to override these for some reason, we don't have to declare these, but they're here, and then we can change those if we want. And we can actually add to them as well. So, and we can subtract from them. So we can do all sorts of things there. Let me fix some typos. All right, so allowed image types and max allowed size. So now we have access to those inside of our functions. So let's just go ahead now and get this validate size thing and grab that out of here. So the first thing we have here, all right, so what we want to do is loop through all the files for each this files as file, and then I'm gonna copy this out of there. All right, and then instead of so we could do a, oops, what am I doing? Don't answer that question. All right, so we set that, we have the name set here now. Now all we need to do is, instead of doing this, we need to use our this add error message. We pass in name, and then we're going to pass in our message. We don't need to build the message unless that is here. So we'll say message is equal to this. And then name message. All right. So that will add the error message to our So the other thing too is like, so we're going to look at file size, and then instead of max size right here, we're going to say this, and then we called that max allowed size. All right. Get a drink real quick, sorry. All right, so now the validate size is its own function or method, and now what we need to do is go ahead and also do the same thing with validate images. So we no longer need to restructure the files because they exist in the object. We no longer need this allowed types because it exists in the object. We're not passing the images into validate images. So instead, what we need to say is this, for each this, files is file, all right. Oh, nice cap, dude. Yeah, this is actually my dad's hat. But anyhow, so then what we're gonna do is say this add error message, pass in name, message. Okay. And then we're not going to use this. We're not going to use this validate right here. We're actually just going to use this. We're going to use a separate method that we have to actually validate both of these. Okay. So we'll just get rid of that return there. Actually, let me keep it for reference. So we probably need a public function run validation, and all that's going to do is call this validate size, and it will call this validate what do we call that? I want to rename this to image, validate image type. Okay, so that will actually run the validation, and then what we'll need is we'll want to have two more methods inside of this class that we can use to, and we probably won't ever run this outside of this class, so we can change this visibility from public to at least protected. I don't know if we'll ever extend this class or not, but same thing with this. We'll run that as protected visibility for now. This will be a public function. There could be a use case to keep that as public, but I'm going to run it as protected for now. And then the restructuring files, I am going to leave that as a public static function because we may use that in other areas for some reason. Not sure what that is yet, but I have a feeling, and it could be wrong. All right, so the other thing, let's go ahead and add our last, well, I think we need two more. Well, we'll just say validates. We'll call it validates. And then This is going to actually just return this, right? But instead of that, it's going to return this errors. Okay, and we change this one as well. This errors. All right, we all tracking so far? I know we kind of extracted a lot of stuff. Before I go any further, do we have any questions, comments, concerns, recommendations, any of those things? You guys let me know. Also, if you guys know of a good way to wash hats, let me know, because I've gotten all kinds of stuff on this hat. And it's really important to me to keep this hat. And I want to wash it because it's kind of gross. There's like some dye on the tee here, just some gross dirt on the white stuff. And I'd like to keep it for a long time, but I want it to look nice too. So if you guys have any suggestions on how to wash it, let me know. That's just side a little side deal. But I'm gonna check real quick while I'm waiting on you guys to respond. I just want to check a few things, make sure we're good on our stream, that the internet connection is still good. The other things I have to think about all the time. All right, looking good, guys. I don't think we have any craziness going on. All right, so you guys haven't really given me any suggestions, although I do think that I'm way ahead of you guys. So there's still this lag. There's always like a 30-second to 1.5 minute lag between when I'm actually speaking and when it actually goes to you guys, which is to be expected, but I didn't think it would be that big of a gap because it's a little hard to have a real-time conversation like that. All right, so we probably have some bugs and errors in here, which not a big deal. We'll fix them as we find them. But I think we're good to go. I think we just need to refactor now how this actually uploads. So let's go ahead now and look at our product images model that's responsible. Now let's keep in mind now what is responsible for actually doing the upload and what is responsible for actually inserting into the database. Okay, so that's two things, two separate things. The database needs to be handled by the model, right? So the product images model is actually going to create the row and add it to the database. The uploads, on the other hand, should probably handle the actual uploading it, right? So that's probably another little, and it won't be a big method, but that's probably another method that we need to add, is actually uploading the file. But first, let's not get too crazy. Let's just let's look at how we're doing this. So what we were doing before is we have this validate images thing here, which we'll need to change this because we just changed how that works. And then what we've done is if it's an empty array, so if it validates, basically we did some weird stuff here, but basically we loop through those and then we're returning those basically in the same, for the same fields so that we can display them in the same spot. I'm not sure that that's the best way to do it, but that's the way that I'm going to do it right now. I could change my mind later, which is fine. So what we're doing is we're doing all that, and then we're adding it to the product. So the product, it comes from the form. So that still probably needs to stay there, so that we can return that. And then what we do is we assign the product. Once that happens, we save the product, and then if the product saves to the database, then and only then are we actually running the upload product images, because we need to know the product ID and things like that. So there's a lot going on here, and it's going to be a little bit difficult to decide what we can pull out of this controller and move to the model, and then what we can move from the model to this uploads class. Okay. All right, so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just kind of do the best we can with separating some of this out, because some of it's just kind of mixed. So the image errors, first thing we need to do is we need to instantiate that. So what we'll say is uploads is equal new uploads, and then remember we were passing that files array into that on construct. So when we construct this, we're passing that in, and then that goes ahead and does the restructure file thing and adds it there. So and of course we're going to need to go ahead and use that. So we'll say use app lib utilities, and then uploads. All right. There's a lot of IDEs and stuff that will, once you've given these a namespace, it indexes your project. And a lot of times when you're typing down here, or where was it? Right here, if I was saying new uploads, if I hit tab to autocomplete this, it would also automatically add this line at the top for me as well. Like the one I work at work does that for me and kind of manages all these use statements. So it's a little more automated during the process. But we do need to make sure we have that there regardless. So now that we've we did the uploads, what we want to do is go ahead and run the validation on it. And so we'll say uploads, what do we call that? Called it run validation. So run validation and then we had another one called validates, so that returns either true or the errors. So instead of image errors equals product image validate images here, this is actually going to be uploads validates. Whoa, that's not how you do that at all. Validates. All right. So that will actually. So this could be image errors or validates. And so it doesn't really make sense to say if. Well, yeah, it does. This is fine. Let's see, image errors. All right, I'm not going to change any of this right now because none of this matters in the context of what we're doing. Hello, thank you for the great tutorial. It'd be better if the user's registration includes the email confirmation. That's true. There's a lot that could be added to that, and the framework basically comes with just a very bare bones user registration because so many people want to handle that differently. So a lot of people want to use OAuth or other services to like log in from Facebook or Google or whatever. Also, you can register that way. Email validation, I can tell you, is kind of trending out. It's still very popular, but not very many people, because of the advent of like fake email services like Mailinator and stuff like that, people will just use those services to generate that, and they'll validate and then never go back and check their emails, so they don't have to worry about spam. And so a lot of people aren't doing that. They're using stuff like social media to validate because they're like, well, people aren't going to create a fake Facebook account, and then they could, but that's just a lot of extra work. So that's why I didn't add email validation. It's probably a good idea to do. And at the very least have functionality where and we can maybe do that in this tutorial as well, not today, but we can get to some of this. But basically, if people forget their password, we want to be able to have the ability to email them the password or something like that, or even a text message type verification, that sort of thing. We can look into that, but I wanted to leave the user registration stuff for the framework anyway to be very simple so that it can be extended very easily. And you'll notice that's also why I stuck it in the models and it's not part of the core files. It's because it is part of your app, and I just gave you a starting point in this model, and you guys will obviously go through and make this your own. You know, you extend this. I gave you some stuff to get you started, but yeah, there's a lot of things you can add. I mean, this thing would be a lot better with a lot of different functionality, but we have to start somewhere, and that's where we're at. All right, so that's just a little side note. All right, so we're back on add error messages. Okay, so at this point, if everything else validates, which I'm not sure that we even added any validation yet. We did add a little bit. We have required fields. Probably needs a few other validation checks to go on this, but we do have some validation going for this. Let's see. So it validates. If it passes, then and only then is it uploading the images. And then, so this is the part that we need to go ahead and run the upload. Let me take a look at our uploads here. So in the model, what we were doing, this is where it's going to get a little mixed logic here a little bit, because we're setting our path. So we want to be able to pass this path. Well, no, it's not going to get too bad. We're going to want to pass this path into the upload. So basically, the only thing the upload method is going to be responsible for is actually uploading the image. Okay. So let's look at that. So instead of passing files here, what we're going to pass into this is probably uploads. The whole uploads object. So this whole uploads object will get passed into this. So going back to the controller, when we get down to this, we don't need this restructuring files crap anymore. So let's just get rid of that. So we're going to upload product images. So instead of passing structured files here, we're going to pass the uploads object directly into that. And then once this gets passed in here, the reason this part's in the model is because this part is responsible for actually wait, where is that happening? Oh, right here. So this part is actually running the save method and inserting it into the database, and then this part needs to come out of here. Okay. So let's go ahead and copy everything inside of this if statement. And let's go to our uploads, and we need another public function here. And this is the part that if you guys were using another service like S3 or you know, Google Cloud or something like that, this is the function that you would change instead of moving the file directly on your server, which I do not recommend for production. We went over that last week. But this is the only file you would have to change. The rest of it would be pretty, you know, the same. Actually, hang on. Yeah, we're good. So this is going to be the actual upload method. And let's paste in this stuff. And so what we need is we need the temp name of the file, and we need the full path. So what I'm going to do is call this like S3 kind of does, because I think it kind of makes sense. The first thing that we need to know on this is the image URL. Let me go back and look, and I just want to refresh my memory of what that actually is. So it's the upload name, so it's that hashed upload name and the path. Okay, so this will take three. This is going to take three properties. Okay, or yeah, parameters. There it is. That's what I was looking for. So what we want to do is we want to say bucket. So where are we putting this thing? So we'll do bucket, and then we're going to pass in the actual name, and then the temp location. So I'm just going to, I'll leave that as temp. So what we're going to do is if not file exists bucket, then create it. That's just where we're going to dump these files. All right. And then when we run the move uploaded files, then this is actually going to be bucket oops, no it's not. See, I don't want to pass that entire URL. I think what I want to do is, let's see, we have the name separate. All right, so let's just put this what it's going to be. So it's going to be uploads, and then uploads, upload, and then we're passing in the bucket. So in this case, the bucket is the path. Yep. So we could rename that here just to be consistent, but I'll leave these both so in case you like one name or the other. So path, and the next thing that we want to pass it is the name. So that was upload name. And then the temp file in this situation is file temp name. So that's the three things we need. We need the path or the bucket, we need the name of the file, and then we need where it's located currently. So here we need to build that out. So we just say root ds and then we'll say bucket and that doesn't need the directory separator, so it's just bucket name. Okay, so I think we're ready to try this out. I don't think it's going to work out of the box because I always make some stupid little typo. So I'm not going to be too upset that doesn't work. So let's go back to our products, add the new product. I'm not checking any sort of like unique stuff yet, which we will. So let's just try, I don't know, we'll try all three. So we're not doing any sort of redirect. I didn't get any errors, so let's see what happens. Uploads. That didn't work, obviously. So cool, we're gonna do some debugging now. Uploads, run validation. Image errors. Am I crazy? Did I not? Okay, there we go. Now we have some errors. Unexpected on line 6 in the uploads. So I haven't, that's when I was fumbling around. Yeah, I got a little extra comma there. That's probably not the only thing wrong with it. All right, perfect. So undefined variable, so we have a typo somewhere there. We have an undefined property uploads. Okay. It looks like it just loops through that. Let's look at line 43. We got some problems there. So this, oh yeah, I have $sign there. Max allowed size. Max allowed size. All right. Well, that's one problem. So let's go back and check it again. Welcome to the world of development. Well, for me, I'm sure you guys don't ever make mistakes, but I make mistakes all day, every day. I probably write more errors than I do code that works. All right, line 32. It's probably the same exact thing. Allowed types, I forgot to scope that. Allowed image types. Okay, check that one. You guys would be really surprised how hard it is to program live like this. This is part of it, though. I mean, I'm not at all embarrassed that I have typos. We just refactored a bunch of stuff, and that's how it goes. No product images. We did get, all right, so we didn't get any errors this time, but it didn't work. So we got a clue. Oh, it says I didn't choose any files. Yeah, why do I always reload the page for checking errors? I do that for a couple reasons, Artur. The main reason is I guess I could just comment out the cross-site request forgery check, but sometimes that token isn't good if I just refresh. We can try. Sometimes it works perfect, and other times it just like your token's broke, and then it forwards me to the freaking thing. So I could deactivate that while we're doing this. So in the control, so I could just do that. So in the add action, I could just comment this line out, and then I could just refresh it. So the cross-site request forgery check isn't gonna screw me up. My token won't screw me up. All right, so let's see. Upload product images, static function, product ID and uploads. Make sure I don't have any. So we're getting at least to this point. So what I think I want to do is right here, I'm going to dump and die our uploads object and see what's going on inside that object. Let me make sure I got the, okay, I do. So once we get to the point of saving, and this, it could be broken before this. So let's see. I'm going to refresh one more time, Artur, get rid of that, and then I shouldn't have to do that anymore. So good point. I should have saved ourselves some time. I'm just going to do one image too. All right, so let's look at our object. We don't have an error. Our temp name looks good. So our actual object, our actual file itself looks really good. Okay. Well, I think we're good at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that dump and die. So let's go and jump into our upload product images and see what we got going on here. Oh, all right. So this is a problem. I don't know if this is the problem, but this is a very big problem. We don't have, so we need to loop through the files inside of the uploads thing, and I think I put that as a private. I did. So what we need to do is add one more getter for that, which is going to be super simple. So it's just a getter. So public function get files, and that's just going to return this files. So then in our product images here, we're going to say uploads get files, like that. That'll get us a little further. So let's go ahead and try it again and see if we get anywhere else with that. All right, we got a little further. Undefined variable file on line 26. Yep, that's because I didn't replace this with our variable that we passed in. So we just passed in temp there. So let's try again. So no errors that time. And boom. There is our image. It uploaded. I'm not saying it's perfect yet, but our uploads is now working. So we do have a problem though, and one of the problems that we have is that we can't create a new product without an image. Or we can, but here, let me just show you what happens. So this is kind of a bad message. This doesn't make sense. So if we don't, it's up to you guys if we actually make images required, which we did make images required, but this doesn't work with that. So what we probably want to do is inside of our controller here, let's see, products, we said, so, okay, I know what we're going to do. What we're going to do is, before we get to all of this part, after we define product here, we're going to say product images equals new product images. I'm not even using that anywhere, so we can probably get rid of that crap. But anyway, sorry, I got off track. So new uploads, but before we get here, right here, what we want to do probably is we want to see if this is an empty array. If it is, then we're going to add an error message to the product so that we can return that to the front end. So it won't even get to the rest of the part of trying to upload it or whatever. So what I want to do here is I'm going to say if empty files, then we're going to say product add error message, and we called that field, let's see, let me look at our view real quick. Product images. I'm going to copy that so I don't screw up the spelling. So we're going to go ahead and add an error message is there, and what we'll do is just give it a message that you must choose an image for you. I'll just do something simple like that. All right, and I think I just, dang it. So let's go ahead now and try it. What in the world? Let's see what files is giving us here when it's empty. So we need to dig deeper into that array because it is a multi-array. So we probably need to do, I can't believe that sucks. Is this something we're doing that's causing that? No, that's how the browser sends it to us. I can't believe the browser sends us an empty string for all this stuff. So we have to dive into this and see if there's anything in here. That's so dumb. So dumb. Browsers, you guys are dumb. So basically, instead of saying if empty, I guess we'll do files 0 name. Could do temp name. Let's do temp name. That's probably better. So temp name, if that is that's equal to an empty string, dump and die. Oh yeah. Could also do this like as a custom validator. Instead of getting rid of this, I'm just gonna leave it there in case I need it again. Alright, here we go. You must choose an image, and it's still going through the rest of this validation. I don't like that. So I think what we'll do, we have to do it before the save. So if we I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try something. Yeah, I didn't think that would work. Basically, I need a way to get outside of... I want to skip all this stuff. I don't want to do double check either. Alright, so... Dang it. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to add this... It still won't matter because we're running the uploads validation. Oh, I know what we can do. I mean, we could just put this stuff in an else, I guess. There's no reason to go through any of the rest of this stuff, any of this. Also, I'm going to move this cross-site request forward recheck to the top of his post, so I don't forget to do that later. That needs to be at the top. All right, let's see how that does us. All right, now we're cooking with fire. All right. So while I'm just kind of resetting my brain for a second, I want to talk to you guys about something. All right. So I know that this two things are boring in PHP: validation and upload. I'm sorry, I'm not intending to make a boring video. I'm really not. And honestly, it's kind of tedious, and I get it. But I want to talk to you guys a little bit something about being a developer. And it's something I kind of want you guys to take a little bit serious. And it's because here's the deal. I don't know if you guys are like me. Maybe this is only an issue with me. But basically, developing takes a lot of time. I mean, it takes a ton of time to develop anything. Um, Even if you're a insanely fast developer and you don't make many mistakes like I do, you don't make many typos. I'd make a ton of typos. Um, it takes a long time. And furthermore, not only does it take a long time to develop something, our brains are often thinking about code even when we're not coding. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about programming, thinking about problems I was trying to solve during the day, um, thinking about just code. I wake up, I must be dreaming code because I wake up with solutions and things like that. And that's fine. Um, but there's a problem, man. And I want us to all to commit to doing our best to keep this from happening. Because I noticed this week it's happened in my own life. I was working on the framework a lot. I was working a lot of hours at my job, trying to prepare for this live stream. And I noticed my brain was completely absent all the time. Um, Mostly around my wife and kids. Because even when they were talking to me, my brain was full of programming stuff. I wasn't intentionally ignoring them or, trying to be rude, but it's just like I just had a million things going on in my brain. So here's what I want to challenge you guys to do. Yes, learning to program and even after you're a developer takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of um, it takes a lot of your mental capacity for the day. A lot of times after you're done programming, you're going to be completely wiped out, mentally, physically, everything. You're not going to feel like doing much with your family when you're done. And so I want us all to commit. If we're going to be, um, here's what I'll say: if we're going to commit to being developers, let's also commit to being good people. And part of that is being good to the people around us. And so what we need to learn to do is to shut off the programming in our mind. So when we're programming, and if we're just sitting around or whatever, it's fine to think about it. It's fine to dream about it. It's fine to wake up and think about it. What's not okay is when we're having a conversation with our loved ones and friends for us to be spacing out and thinking about programming. We're doing that and just being absent-minded. And I think we can, if we start to recognize it when we do it, first and foremost, we should apologize to the people that we're with. Say, sorry, my mind was somewhere else. Here, I'm back. And the more that we do that, I think we will continue to recognize it sooner when it's happening, and just commit to keeping our relationships good. Because the people that are our loved ones that are in our lives are already sacrificing a lot by allowing us to spend so much time doing our jobs and programming. So when we're with them, and we're supposed to be with them and not on our computers, close the computers, shut it down in your mind, take some notes before you're done so you can come back and just forget about it. You'll probably get more done programming that way anyway, but you're going to keep your relationships better. That's just a little thing. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. I'm not trying to be preachy or anything like that. It's just something I've noticed as a developer and even other developers that I work with. It's a stressful thing to have relationships and be a developer. I think it could just be the way our minds work. Maybe we're partial to kind of spacing out and being stuck in our own heads anyway. But let's commit to one another for the next week or two, to being fully present, 100% present with the people that we're with, and giving it our all when we're working. We're working and we're programming and we're thinking hard. But when we're with other people, let's be with them and not be with our programs. Okay. All right. So I got a question. Should we be good at math to be web developers? That's a good question. Honestly, like the way I think about it is, computers are pretty good at math. I mean, you need to know some basic math, just the principles of it. So if if you have to figure out like a monthly price or something like that off of a yearly price, you need to know to divide it by 12, that sort of thing. But most of the time web development, and I'm not going to say all the time, because some web development does get pretty deep into some math, but most of the time web applications tend to be database, like fancy database wrappers. So you need to be good at getting stuff from the database and thinking through that logically. What I'll say, what's more important than being good at math is being a good problem solver in general. So you have to be a good problem solver. If math isn't your strength, there's plenty of things that you can do other than run, you probably don't want to get a job running statistical analysis on big data sets or something like that. However, if you're just creating websites, I mean, I work with people who are just front-end developers that don't do any back-end stuff, but they're really good at like with their eyes. I mean, they can see colors and layouts and user experiences, and has nothing to do with math. And so it really just depends what line of work you're going to be in. But I haven't, I went through calculus in high school, so I've done some pretty advanced math in my life, trigonometry and all that. But I can easily say that since I've been doing this professionally for 4 years, I haven't had to do any real complex math. A little bit, but nothing that I couldn't just look up and if I forgot something or whatever. So I wouldn't put too much stress on yourself if you're not good at math. I say find what you're good at and make your life kind of fit around that. But it is possible to be a web developer, especially a web developer without math. Now maybe developing other things, other programming, you might need to be better at math. But again, for me, you need to understand the basics of math. That's it. I mean, you probably are. I mean, I'm guessing since you're here in this intermediate course that you're probably decent at math anyway. All right, so basic math. Computers are really good at math, so if you can just tell it what to do, it'll do the math for you. That's the way I look at it. All right, so moving on. Let's see, we got about an hour left, and so let's try to clean up this process of adding our products, okay, and see where we get. All right, so we're validating that everything's filled out. We probably want to validate that these are numeric in values so that people aren't just putting something weird here. Probably shipping. Let's see what we did in the database. Shipping might be okay to not be a numeric value, but we did put it in as a numeric value. So I think what we'll do for shipping is if they want to put like free shipping or something, we'll just create a method that returns the text if it is 0. All right, so price, list, and shipping, we'll want to validate those as numeric values. So it looks like we already are doing the numeric validator on price. So we can just copy this line. Let's see if I can remember there we go, Command Shift D. I'm going to do that twice for just list and shipping. We don't need to do too much validation here. Again, this is like going to be in the admin area of the site, so we just don't want people making like stupid mistakes. Must choose an image, body is required, price must be a number, price, so list price and shipping. Okay, so now we go ahead and resubmit that. All right, those seem to make sense. The body, we probably want to try, so this body right here is not going to have the right oh my gosh, thank you guys. You know what I need? I need one of you guys to come here and I need one of you guys to come here and just tap me on the shoulder and like be here with me during the live streams. Sorry about that. So switch screens. All I've done since we last, as I just added 2 more numeric validators for list and shipping, and I was just testing that. So that's all I've done when my screen wasn't on. Sorry about that, guys. And there's a time lag, so by the time you guys give me a message, it's like I've already talked for like 10 minutes. So, all right. So let's look at this. This body is required. I'd like that to be styled to match these better, and I'd also like this. You must choose an image to go down here with the upload product images. So let's go ahead and make that happen, and then maybe we can get rid of the big nasty red thing. All right, go back to the form. So product images, all we have to do here is oh, I know I didn't do this before. Let me look at the code for that really quick. See if I have a append error class. Just to make sure that I put that as a public static method. Yeah, it's public. Okay. So we can use this outside of here. So what I want to do here is add a span. And we'll say that's got a class equal to is or invalid feedback, and then right here, although I'm not, okay. Shouldn't have done that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just basically going to, could make this into a form helper, but for now I'm just gonna shove this in here because I don't want to spend time extending the framework on our live stream because it's not really, that's not what we're doing. All right, so errors is going to be this, display errors. And then the name is product images. And then the class, let me look at that again because this got updated because of Bootstrap 4, so I don't remember this class. I think it is invalid, yeah. I don't know why they changed that. I don't really like that. For one, they changed it and now the labels can't. There's some good things about Bootstrap 4, but they went backwards on a few things, I think. So div class, we're passing in the attributes we want here. All right, so then what we have to do, this is super annoying, is we're gonna do fh stringify attributes all right, let's see. Let me look at that. Stringify is invalid. Oh, dang it. So it has to go in the input string now. That's another thing they changed with Bootstrap 4. That's annoying. So instead of this, I need to change this back. So just class. This won't take, we've almost got this done though. So class form group. You no longer put this on the surrounding div. That's what they changed. That annoys me. Because then I had to change the way that this works. So I'm going to change this to input attributes. And then what we'll do input string equal to fh stringify all right, get rid of this, and then it goes on the input. So class is form control. Oh my gosh. All right, so this is going to take, I don't want to spend too much time on this. This is going to take more work because I don't want to add all this crap up into this thing. I guess I will. You guys ever notice how just sometimes you work on stuff developing that you're like, man, I want to be done with this part because there's much more fun things to do besides this. I think this just happens to all of us. Should just wait until next week and I add this the uploads thing to the form helpers so we don't have to do this. All right. think that's all we need. And we just get rid of all of this and print out our input string. More typos. Still didn't work. Awesome. So the reason that this probably wouldn't work, well, other than I probably have something weird going on, but we need to be able to, like, I want to look at those display errors. So inside the controller, let's see, let's just dump and die display errors, I guess. Product images. You must choose an image. That looks right. Oh my gosh. I'm so stupid. So we have to run the, oh, we did append error. Append error class. Use an input block. Jesus. You're right, Artur. I am so stupid. I need to, you know what I should do? I should be waking up at 3:30 in the morning and doing these while I'm fresh, and then you guys should be watching these at 7 at night, or whatever time it would be for you, because I am dumb. I don't know why I didn't think about that ever, because these are just inputs. So yeah, let's make it easy on ourselves, which I should have done from the very beginning. All right, so here, let's do echo. Thank you so much, Artur. That's why I love you, man. You're smart. I need to take you to work with me. All right, so input block. So this is going to be file, and then we used upload product. Oh my gosh. Upload product images, and let's see, the name. The one thing that's going to be tough about this is the name and the ID aren't going to be the same. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't use the input block, I think, but that's not insurmountable. That's going to be easier of a problem to fix. So right now we're using name for ID and which so let's add a little bit more logic, I guess, to this thing for now, and we'll just say if type is equal to file and in array, or if array key exists multiple, if that's inside of the input attributes, then what we're going to do is we're going to say I'm going to actually turn this into a ternary operator, and I'm going to say ID is equal, and then we're going to use all of this. So if type is a file, this or whatever, then what we want to do is we're going to set ID equal, not ID, I'm going to change this to name. That's going to be equal to name, concatenate on that, else it's just going to be equal to name. So then what we can do is here we can actually use ID and name separately. Good job, guys. This is what I was hoping would happen, actually, that you guys would really step up and become better developers and make me a better developer. And you know, I'm glad that you guys are actually giving input. All right, label, ID, name. All right, so now if I got the logic right, this should be good to go. So here we're just going to say product images for the name. Value. I guess value. I'm not really sure what to put for value here, so I'm going to try an empty string. And then we need our attributes, which was class, form control. We don't need to type. We need multiple. We don't need name or ID. That should be it. And then for the div attributes, that was going to be just a class. And we'll set that equal to form group call 6. And this display errors. 924. Sometimes I hate when editors try to like do closing stuff. All right, let's see if that works now. So I want to go back to the controller, get rid of this dump and die. I know the errors are correct. Okay, well, we're getting somewhere here. So we have the upload. I believe the web developers will have Alzheimer's in an early age. Possibly, yeah. I mean, I feel like the older I get, like I miss more and more stuff. Like I think it's also I need a break. I didn't take much vacation at all this year, or really any. I need some time off. Okay. So we don't really need any of this stuff. Go ahead and get rid of that. And we don't need any of this stuff. But I think the reason that we're not showing that error message is because this right here, we need to pass ID there. There we go. You must choose an image. Wow. Okay. So that took a while to get there, but we're there. The other thing is the body. I don't know why this is actually styled like that. That one could be getting screwed up because of the WYSIWYG, but let's look at that one too. The text area, body. Let's go back and look at our text area, see if I had any bugs there. Yep. So the problem is the class is wrong on that, because remember, Bootstrap 4, this is a Bootstrap 4 issue, they changed their class name from help block to, you have to give it a specific feedback type now. So it's either valid or invalid, stuff like that. So I missed that when I did this refactor on the all right, that should actually be styled correctly now. Try that. Cool. I don't really expect this to turn red because this is actually a class. We would have to probably style that in a separate CSS thing because of we have to style that separately, I think. All right, guys. Let's see. Let's finish up this process of adding a new product so that next week we can finish all the other CRUD operations. I'm convinced we can do that. So got through that mess. So now what happens is, if this is successful, we don't want to just stay on the same page. We want to go ahead and redirect them. And so where we're going to redirect them doesn't exist yet, but that's okay. After the products have been uploaded, then I want to redirect. And what we're going to redirect to is router. Steve, you're very welcome, man. I love that you guys get, you guys are all real loyal too, man. You guys are always on. And so I'm starting to learn your names, and that stuff's awesome. All right, so router redirect. And I'm going to redirect to the index. So we're going to redirect to admin products. All right. I might be, let's see. Admin products. Yeah. The other thing that I want to do is set a session before I redirect. I want to do a session add, and I forgot what that is already. Check that out. Oh, it's just add message, and we can pass in success. Yeah, we're gonna use success. So add message, and then here we just want to say, we're gonna give it a type of success, and then we're gonna say product added. Give them some feedback. So let's try it out. Actually, there's going to be a problem because we haven't set up this view products thing. Oh yeah, we did. So it'll take us to here, and then it'll give us the display message. So let's go back. Now let's add a real product. So Catan, and I'm going to give it a price of $49.99 with a list price of $58.99, and shipping we'll do 12. Well, for now I'm just gonna do Catan is awesome. Buy it. Then I'm gonna add some product images here. Stupid use statements. Shouldn't have did PSR4. I'm changing it back, JJ. I'm just joking. But that's what's going on here. I should keep these a little more organized too. Like put all the core stuff together and everything else together. Again, stupid typo. And that's because it was obviously shortened. One of these days, gonna get it right. Boom! Product added. And then this would be where we'll display our list of products. So let's go ahead now and just make sure everything looks good. So let's look in the products table, and the one that I'm interested in keeping is probably this last one, this 23 here. I'm gonna get rid of everything else. Clean up the database, because we're gonna start adding some real products next time. And then in the product images, we have 3 that have the product ID of 23. The rest of those are garbage. So I'm just gonna clean. That's all from me testing and adding crap just now. All right. So let's delete that. I'd like to test one more just to get the whole experience of how this works, and then the other thing I want to test is just double check our uploads directory. So that the one that we're looking at is going to be product 23, and it has 3 images here. So those look good. Perfect. All right. Have you guys ever played Catan? Am I the only one that likes board games? Probably. Traffic is legendary. All right, man. Have a wonderful day, and you can catch the rest of this live stream. We're only going to be going for another 25 minutes or so. You can catch it on the replay. It'll be uploaded in the channel. You know, it usually takes them a few hours with these long live streams to get them up. But thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. All right. So let's so we have that. Let's just get the full experience here. I'm gonna go to Amazon, and I'm gonna look at another game that I like, Agricola. Let's look at this one. Okay, so we got a few images here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save a few more of these images. So Agricola 1. Let's see. I'm not going to do all these, but save image as Agricola 2. What's another good one? Look at those little bags. I might order this. Mine doesn't have bags. Just joking. Not gonna order that. I'd rather buy a new microphone so that my live streams sound better. All right. So there we go. Let's go ahead and see what this thing says. Maybe I'll rip off this too. So it's $69.99 free shipping. Let's look at their. I'll grab all that too while we're at it. All right, so go to products, add product, Agricola. I'm gonna be a little cheaper than Amazon, so I'm gonna say $59.99. List price is $79.99, but I'm gonna charge $9.99 for shipping. Go ahead and paste that in here for some for description, and we'll upload these 3 images. So that happened pretty fast. Obviously, the files are all local and not going over a network, so we're not getting the actual experience that it'll be if people were actually uploading these through the network, obviously. But hopefully the images aren't too big, so it wouldn't be horrible. But at some point, we'd probably want to add some sort of like progress bar for the uploads or something like that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that, make sure we're all good. I think we're going to be good. For products, we have Agricola and Catan. Product images, we have 3 for Catan and 3 for Agricola. And then let's just double check. That was product 24. All right, looks like the script's working fairly well right now for adding. Obviously, we're going to add more functionality to this as we go. Yeah, the framework is working fast. I'm actually really happy with the framework. I'm not saying it's done. I'm just happy with the direction that it's going. So it's something I'm super excited about, Artur. And man, I can't wait to release this thing as version 1.0 to the world and let everyone kind of use it. And hopefully you can be a contributor, and I'll put you down as helping out with everything, and maybe you can use that as some real world experience to show for jobs and stuff like that too, if we get quite a few people using it. But I'm pretty excited, mainly because it is blazingly fast. I mean, it's real fast. I think I'll buy those games at the end of the project. Those are good games. I don't know if you ever have time to play them, but hey, um, actually we do a game night usually like once every 2 weeks or so, or once a week. We try. It just depends how the flow of life's going, but usually on Friday nights we have a couple friends over. My oldest son comes over and we'll play some board games. So we're a big fan of board games. Just get around. That's the other thing is all of us. Guys, we sit behind a computer all day, and I don't know about you guys. Like, let me share a little bit of something with you guys real quick. So I don't know about you guys, but I used to do physical labor. So I was like, I worked in construction for a long time. I moved furniture for a long time. I was a landscaper. I did a lot of stuff like that. I actually made teeth too after that. That wasn't a physical job. I stared through a microscope, and uh, I was a dental lab technician. And when you do those types of jobs, you want to come home and mess around on a computer. At least I did, because I didn't work on a computer all day. In fact, I was physically beat when I got home from doing some of those jobs, and it was cool to play a video game or something like that. But after staring at a computer screen all day long, and I get home now, I don't really want to play video games or watch TV or anything like that. I never was a big TV fan. I do like to watch. I don't watch live TV much. Um, I'll watch TV with my wife at night, like right before bed. We watch one show on Netflix. Usually, like in a series, we'll watch like one episode. Um, that's just after the kids go to bed. So, but anyways, that's I don't know. I just kind of wanted to stop working for a minute and talk to you guys because I want to get to know you guys more. I'd like for you guys to get to know me more. And at some point, I would love to. I don't know how your guys' finances are or anything like that. I'm sure. I mean, mine aren't great, but maybe at some point, if we all save enough or something, we can do a meetup somewhere, and we can uh, get a hotel conference room or something, and all just spend like a weekend together. Maybe program some stuff together live, or just talk about some stuff and then go hang out, eat dinner, have some fun. I'd love to meet you guys in person. It might be difficult, uh, but who knows what's gonna happen in the future, man? Maybe somebody will donate enough money to the framework that I can front everyone a trip or something. Just all my original OGs, not not all the people that's gonna come along after this is already done. But at any rate, guys, we don't have much time to start anything new for the night. I'm sorry that it took so long to get to this point, but now we have the ability to add products. We have the front end site, we have the back end set up and ready to start doing all that. I don't know if you guys noticed, I didn't change my screen back. Hang on, I caught that myself. Maybe you guys caught it, but I actually caught that one. I want to show you guys something. I don't know if you noticed this, but I actually separated out. There's no more log in or log out right here in the menu. It's actually over here in the right hand side, and so that works like that now. And I made it easy to extend this and add more to this. And the way that works is there's a new ACL. So I added user menu, and the user menu, dang it. Oh, so the user menu basically has the login and register stuff, and it still goes through the ACL checks. So they have to have permission to see this stuff. But there's a login and register link on that side if they're not logged in. And if they are logged in, right now all I have is this log out button. But there could be other things here like, edit profile, other things that a user might want to do to manipulate their own account. So that's what the user menu is for. And so I also refactored, I forgot to show you guys this earlier. Since we have a few minutes left, I can show you this too. I also refactored how menus are generated into its own function. So basically, like right here, I've started setting up the ability for us to pass in like mergeable fields here. So right here, this says username, but that gets replaced with the logged in user's first name. So maybe I should have called that first name. I don't know, something like that. But this is what I did. And then when it sees this in this menu, when it's building it out, it actually replaces that. And so let me show you that real quick. So that happens, interestingly enough, in the router, because that's where, well, that doesn't all happen in router, but basically we still have the get menu method that takes the menu name and then gets the JSON file, and then that decodes it, and this is what actually builds out all the links and stuff. So you can see it gets the link, and then it checks if they have access. So this get menu thing isn't responsible for any of the HTML. It just actually rebuilds the array based upon what they have access to see. Then what happens is, I think I put it in helpers. Yeah, so since we had current page in the helpers, I added the build menu list items method here. So basically we just start an output buffer, and then it has the current page here, and then it loops through the menu that's passed in, and it builds out the menu. And then you can see this is where I'm checking that username. So if you wanted to add additional checks here, you could check that. But if the username, then I check if they're logged in. If they are, I just put hello and then their first name. Otherwise, I just pass the original key down. It shouldn't ever happen to where the original key would get passed down, because they need to be logged in to see that. But if anything crazy ever happened, it would be that. And if they didn't have a first name, so say you didn't make a first name required, it would just say hello. So it still wouldn't look bad if it was like that. So the way you use this now, which is really cool, is since I've added that, let me just close some of these files. So the way that works now is inside of your views and your layouts, wherever you add the menus. So if you look at the main menu file now, instead of having all the HTML in here, I just have the lists, and then what happens is Ali, you just said, did you ask another question that I missed? Let me see. I'm sorry, I don't see another question. It's just you're asking my name, saying please. You need to be more specific if you need something or have a question. But basically, it runs this build menu list items, and then you pass the menu into it. And then I added an additional parameter that you don't have to pass down, but this adds an additional class to the drop downs. So that's how I gave it the alignment of the right align. Let me check. So the right align happens because of this part of the drop down, because of that class you passed in. So that's, just want to kind of show you guys that stuff. Yeah. You guys have any other questions or anything? We got about 10 minutes left. If not, I'll let you guys get on with your days. I don't want to waste too much more time. Ali, do you want to restate your question, because somehow I missed it? So JJ is not going to be here next week. I think either Steve or Artur said they weren't going to be here as well. But you guys can catch the replay. I think it's actually Steve that said he might not be here. I was looking through old comments. All right. Well, guys, if there's no other questions or comments or concerns or anything like that, I want to thank you guys sincerely for joining the live stream. Thank you so much. You guys make all this possible. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. That helps me a lot. Hit the bell notification too. YouTube's algorithms actually, that kind of stuff matters a lot. And I know you hear it all the time in YouTube videos, but you know, I just wanted to, I don't know. I basically just wanted to say that I appreciate you guys. I really do. I never thought in a million years that I would be doing a live stream teaching other people what I've learned. I'm self-taught. I didn't go to college for this. So I'm just like on the journey just like you guys. And so, you know, there's probably a lot of things I don't know that you guys know. And we all come together and put our minds together. We don't need a college degree, you know. We can make it happen without one. So Artur says, I want to refactor session and cookie because you can get session value and logged into other user account. I would love to know how that's possible, Artur. PHP should not be able to get a session from another session. So they shouldn't be able to get a session value for that. Cookie, on the other hand, if someone stole your cookie through like a man-in-the-middle attack or something like that, if they had your cookie, they could log in. However, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not. One thing I want to show you is that I did add a little bit of protection for that because if you look in the user sessions model, there's this function called session uagent no version. Okay, and what happens is we'll go to that. That's actually in the core session class. And what it does is it takes their user agent from their computer and it strips version numbers and a few other things out of the user agent. And so not only would they have to steal the cookie, they would also have to spoof the user agent, which is possible, but they would have to know exactly what computer, screen size, browser, and other things to set so that their user agent matches. Because it's not just cookie, because if you look in the database, what happens, and I'll show you guys an example of this if it's not already one there. So I don't have one, so let me go ahead. Oh, I didn't put my freaking screen back on. I suck. But basically what happens is it takes their user information for their local machine and adds that as part of the session. So let me show you what I mean. So if I log in, the only way I'm going to have a cookie set is if I turn on this remember me. I'll hit login. Guess I typed that wrong or something. All right, so I just logged in with the remember me cookie. And if I go to user sessions, here's my session. Okay, so this is the actual cookie that's stored on the user's browser. But also, if you look at this user agent, it says Mozilla, Linux, and then it's got my architecture, and then Apple WebKit, Chrome Safari, right? And I've stripped versions out of this and I've changed some of it. So it's going to be hard for people to completely know how I changed this user agent information. And so what happens is when it does that check to try to log them in, so even if they stole the user's session, so they stole this through a man-in-the-middle attack or something, they stole this cookie and then they try to log in as a user, this information is not anywhere stored on their computer. There's no cookie or anything like that. But if they, so they'd have to have this exactly right, which means they would have to know how we are, they would have to know what we're doing here to change that, okay? So even if they knew exactly what that person's computer was, they'd have to be either spoofing or visiting with that cookie from the same machine with the same browser and operating system and stuff like that. So there's a little, one at least added addition to the security on that. So again, they would have to know what this session is, even this cookie, to steal it. And so I don't know. I think it's unlikely. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely that somebody can log in as you with your cookie. So if I'm missing something there, Artur, that I'm blatantly missing, you can let me know, and I can try to increase that security for sure. So Denise says, "Thank you, sir. I tried to wake up at 3 a.m. but couldn't. I will be there next time." No problem. Just watch the replay, and so here's one bit. We all have a lot going on in life, so I'm not. It's no big deal if you guys miss these sessions, guys. If I come up here one night and I'm the only one on here, I'm still doing a live stream. I won't have anyone to talk to, and I'll feel like an idiot. But the truth of the matter is that far more people are watching these after the live streams are over, anyways. And so I'm not gonna stop doing them, even if you guys can't make it. But I love that you're here. It does give me an incentive to do live streams rather than just recording videos. The interaction's awesome. So if you guys can make it, great. If you don't make it, don't let that add any sort of guilt or anything to your lives. We all have enough going on, and life's hard enough. We don't need to like feel remorse or guilt that we couldn't be or do something like that. So by all means, guys, don't let this be another stressor to your day. I want this to be something that's beneficial, not something that stresses you out more. But Denise, I did want to say something to you. I wanted to tell you, because you said this to me several times, but I did want to tell you, blessings and blessings, blessings upon blessings for you and your family. God bless you, and thank you for all your kind words and all the comments you've given me in my video. It means a lot to me, and all of you guys have given me good comments and things like that, and it means a lot to me. You know, I really take that stuff to heart, man, and there's so much, and maybe I'm just kind of getting old, but I'm kind of going through this time where I feel like my life's at least half over, and I haven't done all the things in life that I want to do. And more importantly, it's not that I want to do things or leave a legacy so much as I want to make a difference in the world, a positive difference. I want to leave the world a better place for my kids than when I found it when I was born, right? And at least sometimes it makes me it makes me feel like I'm doing some good when you guys let me know, hey, I got a job from watching your tutorials, or you've helped me in some way. Because if I can make small incremental changes in my life, in this world for other people, at least I'm doing something, you know? I'm not gonna solve big world problems or anything like that, but if we all do what we can, do a little something, if everyone makes the world just a little bit better, that will add up to it will make large changes in the world. So anyways, enough of me preaching. Nice flannel. Tony, that's my wife, guys. Everybody say hi to Tony. Nice flannel. This is a nice flannel. She got it for me for Christmas. She got me all my flannels actually for Christmas, and so I've just been wearing these. And then my hat came from my dad when he passed away. It was sitting next to him, so I just put it on, and I don't know, it wasn't in the will or anything. But Steve says, I just created my own select block for forms and it's working. I only need to pass it in at least 3 params, and it's up. Wow, the framework is awesome. Yeah, take a look at my select as well. It kind of just follows along what the other form helpers are, but I think it's awesome that you added your own. It's good practice, and it shows you how you can extend the framework for your needs, right? That's the most important thing. Is this isn't going to be this framework will never be everything that everyone needs it to be. But if it's easy to extend, it gives you a starting point, so you don't have to write all this stuff from scratch from the very beginning, right? And a lot of it's the database and the security and things like that I hope to get better at. Well, guys, it is a little after 10 o'clock. We made some good progress today, refactoring out the upload stuff. Hope you guys have a wonderful week. Keep checking back with the framework. I'm going to continue to make improvements and enhancements there. Submit those issues to my Bitbucket repo if you have those. That'll help me with communication and make sure I don't forget things. And also, Artur, let's connect sometime soon with what you've been working on. I want to get those changes pushed and see what you're doing. And I'm going to continue on with the documentation. I am 100% confident that once you guys see the documentation, you're going to love it, and it's going to help you use the framework that much more. All right, guys. You guys have a wonderful night. I'm out. I love you guys. Peace. Go out there and make the world a better place, guys. Pay it forward. Talk to you later.